Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As I promised you in my previous video dedicated to dodging and burning, today we're going to talk about color grading, specifically color grading beauty images, because I'm a beauty photographer and retoucher, and this whole channel is about beauty photography and retouching. So, color grading. There are multiple ways how you can color grade in Photoshop. As with everything, there's lots of different ways how you can do just one thing. So today I'm going to show you what I'm using for color grading. Is actually very simple, and the reason behind this is that beauty pictures are meant to be promoting and selling the product, the makeup or whatever is applied to model's face. So we don't want to tweak the colors too much and try to keep them as close to reality as possible. So we only want to concentrate on skin tones mostly. For that very reason, it's the best idea to get everything right in the camera, and I highly recommend trying to figure out your settings right in a camera before you actually start taking pictures. Try to use the gray card if you need to set the right white balance or color temperature in your camera, so you don't end up with the too warm, too yellow pictures or too cold pink blue tones pictures. It's gonna save you a lot of time in the post process and in Photoshop when you're trying to figure out what actual skin tone should be for this picture. So I hope you're gonna enjoy this quick tutorial. If you do, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment. It really helps my channel with all the engagement and everything, and also subscribe and hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss any future uploads. Yep, with that out of the way, intro's over, let's jump into Photoshop and let's do some color grading. So here we are in Photoshop, and I have this picture here. It's a clean, fresh beauty, and this is the final image. And let me just show you real quick how it looked before and after. So this is your raw image. This was straight out of the camera, and this is the final edit. So let me just zoom in a little bit closer, and if we just turn off and on the color grade and group, so this was before and this is after. You see the original one had a lot of pink tones and blue purplish tones. The hair was a little bit purple as well, and the reason behind this is because this is a clean beauty and fresh and glowy. I specifically turned down my temperature in my camera, so white balance was a little bit colder, because for me the colder the image is, the more fresh or more clean it looks. It brings the vibe, I think. So I knew the result is going to be a little bit pinkish, but that's fine because I was able to fix it in post-process very easily. And actually, if we bring back the color grade and break down the group, you see I only used 3 layers to achieve these results and neutralize the blue pinkish tones. So I'm going to just delete this group now, so we can go ahead and start doing it right away, and I'll show you what I'm using. So first, when you are done all your retouching and everything, just create a new group and call that color grade. Just so you know, this is the color grading, and you know you're going to be working on this one. First will be adjustment layer of curves. You know guys, I love curves and I can do everything with them, and I also using them for color grading. So first curve, we'll be working with the RGB curve, and I'll just bring a little bit more contrast into the picture. For beauty images, I don't like crushed blacks or anything like that, as I think that's really moody, and we try to keep it more commercial like. So let's bring down the black point this way a little bit, so introduce a little bit more contrast into the blacks, and do the same with the whites. Introduce a little bit more contrast into the whites, so bring a little bit more shine into the picture. Let me just create a couple of points here to kind of make it all good. Yeah, just a little tweaks with the curve adjustment layer before and after. It's really not much of a difference, but it's there. The more contrast, it's more crispy, it's much nicer. Next will be again curve adjustment layer, but this time we're gonna work with red, green and blue channels separately. As you know, RGB is opposite of CMI, so red is opposite of cyan, green is opposite of magenta, and blue is opposite of yellow. So with that knowledge now, you know, if you bring the point all the way this way, introducing more science, as this part of the curve is a cyan and this part of the curve is red. So if we go up, we're introducing more red into the image. If we go the other way, we're introducing more cyans. All the same applies with green. So if you go up, you're going to introduce lots of greens into the image, specifically into the shadows, because we are now in the shadow area. If we go the other way around, we're introducing lots of magentas. And for the same with the blue, if we go up, so this top part of the curve is a blue channel. So if you go up, we're introducing lots of blues, and if you go the other way around, we're introducing lots of yellows. Same here, if we want to adjust the highlights, if we go down, we are bringing yellow into the highlights, and the other way we're bringing blues into the highlights. So I think that's a pretty easy and simple way how the curve adjustment layer works. And with this knowledge now, we know what we need to do to kind of bring the proper skin tones back and get rid of all this pink, blue, purplish tint that we have on a picture. How do I know that this picture is a little bit pinkish? You probably wouldn't know if you are just starting out or you never had any experience with the color grading before. It will be a little bit harder, more challenging for you to kind of see it right off the bat that what needs to be done with the picture. I recommend highly to have some reference pictures open in the next tab or from the internet or somewhere to kind of just have a look how the skin tone should look like. And as you will be editing more and more and more, you'll get that into your eye and you'll be able to see what needs to be done with the picture color wise to kind of neutralize everything and make it look really nice and natural. So I know this is a purplish and pinkish, so obviously we want to neutralize the pinks and blues in the picture. So let's start with the red, as those are our reds and pinkish tones, and we're gonna introduce a little bit of cyan into them to neutralize them. So let's bring this point a little bit this way. You see we are losing all the pinks and purples from the hair as we are now in the shadow area, so getting rid of the reds from shadows. Just a little small tweaks will do all the trick. And from the highlights, bring that down as well a little bit. Your midtones, you can just keep them as they are. We don't want to make it too cyany. Alright, that's cool. Now moving on to the blue channel, as now we want to neutralize the blue tint that's still in the picture. So again, from the shadow, as we know, this is our blue section, this is our yellow section, so we want to neutralize the blue. Let's go in the shadows a little bit this way to bring a little bit more yellow into the picture, a little bit warmth to neutralize the blues. Not too much, because if we go too far away, you see we getting super yellow shadows and that's not really good. So let's keep it really simple and small adjustments. Great. Let's bring a little bit of yellows into the highlights as well to make the face a little bit warmer, not too much. So let's keep this middle point over here to kind of maintain the cool tones on the picture. And the last one will be our green adjustments. And with the greens, you see if we're going this way, we introduce lots of magenta, this way we introduce lots of greens. I actually like to bring a little bit of greens into the shadows, not too much, and also a little bit of greens into the highlights. If you feel more comfortable, you can create 3 different curve adjustment layers and adjust each individual color on each layer, so it's not mixed up all together, because then if you click on this button, you see all these lines are here, so you might find it hard to kind of know which one is which. So you can go ahead and create a separate adjustment layer for each color that you are adjusting. Well, I just have a quick look at what we did. This was before and this is after, so we kind of neutralize the pinkish tones. Now it's looking more natural altogether. Before and after start looking very good. And the last adjustment layer will be selective color, so go down and bring a selective color adjustment. And now, if you don't know how selective color adjustment works, if you never worked with that before, you have a couple of colors here and you can tweak them very specifically. So let's go into yellows and I'll show you how that works. So you click on yellows and you have cyan, magenta, yellow and blacks over here. And what that means is if you slide these sliders left or right, you will be adjusting the levels or the amount of magenta within the yellows. Okay, so how that works is basically if you slide it all the way down, you are taking away all the magenta from yellows, so the yellows start looking really creepy. If you go all the way on the other side, you're bringing very much magenta into the yellow, so all the yellow tones are now turning into more magenta tones. Hope that makes sense. So if we know all this, let's just start actually doing some tweaks that will help our picture. Let's start with reds. And as you know, skin tones are reds and yellows, so we don't want to tweak them too much, but do a little bit of adjustments to make the image even better. We adjusted the cyan with the curves, so we don't really need to do much with that. Let's have a look if bringing down magenta will help it a little bit. Not too much. Bringing up the yellows, as I feel now we lost a lot of yellows. Keep the blacks as they are. With the yellows, let's bring a little bit more magenta in the yellows and more yellows in the yellows. And I like to go to blacks and I bring +1 of magenta and +1 of yellow, so into the shadow, so it kind of looks a little bit better. In this case, maybe I'm not going to do the yellow. I'm gonna stick with -1 to keep the blue tones there a little bit more, and also going to white and bringing down the black point just a little bit to make the highlights pop a little more. Okay, so let's have a look what we did. This is our before and this is our after. I think it's looking quite good. I'm not quite sure about the shadows here, so let's just go back to our color curve adjustment layers and see there's a lot of yellows in the shadows and I don't quite like them, so let's go to blue, as opposite of blue is yellow, and we'll try to neutralize that a little bit more. So here is our shadows, so let's bring back the slider a little bit to get rid of the yellow tint into the shadows. This is quite good. Okay, so you see we did only small tweaks, but it made such a big difference. As you see here, it was our before and here is our after. Keep switching between before and after. You might notice you might go maybe too far with the color grading. In that case, you can just simply go and lower the opacity of each layer or on all the layers all together, and you can still go back and change whatever you think might help the picture a little bit. If you are not familiar or not very good at selective color, it really just a matter of practice. You need to just kind of go ahead and try to play around with the sliders and see which one works and which one does what, so you can get more familiar, and it's certainly gonna help you with your color grading because this is such an easy tool. Okay, now I'm very happy how it looks like. We can move on to another example because I have one more picture for you. So here is kind of the opposite happening. The picture is quite warm and very flat to start with. So you see I used a lot of layers of color grading to fix that and try to get the best color grading possible. So it's not always simple, but most of the time it's I'm only using those 3 layers. Here I maybe probably gone a little overboard with all the layers, but here is the result of the 10 layer color grading. This is our before and this is your after. As you see, I neutralized the yellow tones and bring a little bit more cool tones, bring a little bit more pinkish into the picture. I also brought back the freckles that were a little bit lost on the original picture because of the way I light this. The light was very flat and very soft, so there was not much shadows going on in the raw picture, so I had to kind of introduce them in the post process. If you're interested how exactly I color graded this one, or what was the complete workflow breakdown, it's going to be actually my next video, so definitely stay in, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss when I upload a video of this beauty. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as you see on this image, you don't need more than 3 layers to actually make the color grading work for you, because with the beauty you're trying to stick as close to reality as possible. So really just 2 curve adjustment layer, 1 selective color. That's my usual workflow. If I need, I'll add additional layers on top of it, but for most of my work I'm trying and keeping the color grading on minimum to get the most realistic results possible. So I guys hope this was helpful, and I'll see you here next time. Bye!